All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to my power, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Chakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. Peace and blessings to all for like, Lord willing to be a part of that number. I'm the brother Kudah from the G-Men's Brand Chicago. Come back with another video. This video is going to be entitled The Diodochi Wars. All right, this is going to be episode 51 on, on my history series. It says, history episode 51, Diodochi Wars, Alexander's Generals. All right, now you can read about that in First Maccabees. All right, just going into a little bit more detail. All right, because I believe it's written in the Maccabees as well that they give like a summarization of what happened. And this is for those who are wanted some more understanding on the wars. So and this also shows you Proverbs 21:1. All right, when it says the king's heart is in the hand of Yahweh. Okay, so it says Diodochi wars. Diodochi, the successors of Alexander the Great and their wars. Alexander the Great's Diodochi successors fought over a vast empire spanning from Greece to India in a series of bloody conflicts. The age of the Diodochi of Alexander the Great was one of the bloodiest pages of Greek history. A series of ambitious generals attempted to secure parts of Alexander's empire, leading to the creation of the kingdoms that shaped the Hellenistic world. This was a period of intrigue, treachery, and blood. The death of Alexander the Great, tensions rise. Alexander the Great died on June 11, 323 BCE in Babylon, possibly from typhoid fever. It's a lot of rumors about how he passed, man. Some say syphilis, some because that nigga was a sodomite, but nevertheless, he passed away. It says before taking his last breath, Alexander was asked by his generals to whom would go his empire after his death. With his final strength, he said to the strongest. And these words alone just gonna cause division, especially among Edomites, man. The Lord had it to where the Lord made him say that, man. It says Alexander left behind him the greatest empire the ancient world had ever seen. This vast empire contained lands from the Adriatic Sea all the way to the Indus River, all from Libya to modern-day Tajikistan. Of course, Alexander had just recently conquered these lands, and a great part of his empire was not firmly secured. The main problem with Alexander's death was that it was sudden and early. The Macedonian general had not spent enough time consolidating his rule. As a result, there was no man ready to succeed him yet. His sudden passing away also meant that the empire would soon fall in shock. And let me grab this real quick. All right. Spirit was heavy on me to just go grab that for keep that on deck. It says from 323 to 281, a series of wars took place between Macedonian generals. These bloody wars are also called the Diodochi Wars, from the Greek word diadokos, which means successor. The War of the Diodochi, the world in turmoil. When Alexander passed away, the most important of his generals and guards gathered to discuss the future of the empire. There it was agreed that the successor would either be Alexander and Roxana, yet unborn child, if it was a boy, or Alexander's brother-in-law, Philip III. The balance of power was fragile. Everyone understood that Alexander's son, who was eventually born and named Alexander, I believe this is is that the fifth? I could be wrong. Get back into those numerals. But it says I was nothing more than a puppet. At this point, the strongest man in the empire was Perdiccas, who became sort of the empire's regent until Alexander V could grow enough to rule. He was actually the one trying to keep the empire together. St. Benji, the elder brother Ratazawani, St. Benji mentioned it in the gym at Chicago Bishop's live show Sunday that, one of the generals was trying to keep the kingdom together. They ended up taking him out. They ended up teaming up to take him out. This is the guy. His name was either Perdiccas or Perdiccas, I believe. It says, except for his position, Perdiccas also enjoyed the advantage of legitimacy. Alexander the Great had given his reign to Perdiccas just before passing away, designating him responsible for the empire, so he was the one in rule. Even though no one doubted Perdiccas openly, everyone was suspicious of Perdiccas, and Perdiccas was suspicious of everyone, because that's how these Edomites get down. All right? Dog eat dog, snake. Assassinating each other left and right, snaking each other out. That's how Esau gets down, man. It says a lot of other men undertook various administrative responsibilities, but the ones who proved the most resilient were Ptolemy, Antigonus, Antipater, Seleucus, and Lysimachus. The balance of power changed soon as Perdiccas was murdered in 321 BCE, so they got him out the way. Already before that year, Ptolemy had managed to take Egypt for himself. All right, so this is when, so Alexander conquered that, all right, and Ptolemy branched out to Egypt to rule that land, So when the Greeks took over, when they started to rule over Egypt, that's when the pharaohs started to become Edomites, So what's that woman's name? That whore, Cleopatra, who had affairs with Julius Caesar. She was an Edomite. All right, because she came from the Ptolemaic Empire, the Ptolemaic dynasty, Salakia. She was an Edomite. Cleopatra was an Edomite. Anyone telling you she was an African or Israelite, that's completely false. She came from the Ptolemaic dynasty. She was an Edomite. So let's continue to read. It says, yep. It says, Ptolemy had managed to take Egypt for himself and secretly transport Alexander's body to Alexandria, which was under his control, the way Ptolemy secured one of his empire's richest and most prestigious parts. Look how these devils get down, man. This is after Perdiccas' death, the Diodochi gathered in Tripardisus at 321 BCE to partition the empire. The partition showed that the Diodochi were having their own ambitions, but the empire was still united before the names of Alexander V and Philip III. After Tripardisus, Antipater replaced Perdiccas as the empire's regent. However, he died in 319 BCE from old age, 81 years old. The next decades were a long and bloody conflict amongst the Diodochi. The dominant figure of the years between 320 301 BCE was without a doubt Antigonus, while the rest of the Diodochi had given up on a dream of the grand Macedonian Empire. Antigonus would still believe that Alexander's conquest could remain united under his name. Antigonus was having a lot of success and kept growing his domain to become the most formidable power between 320 to 301 BCE. As ambitious successors were being eliminated one by one, Cassander assassinated Alexander V in 311 BCE, delivering the final blow to Alexander's bloodline. So they killed off Alexander's bloodline. It says, before the assassination, the great Diodochi of the time had signed a peace treaty recognizing the status quo of 4 separate kingdoms, to Ptolemy in Egypt, Antigonus in the whole of Asia, all right, Cassander in Europe, which is also Asia. All right, Europe is Asia, man. All right, it says Macedonia. Elder Malcolm brings it out all the time. All right, hence why they used to call it Eurasia. Okay, it's not a separate continent. It says in Lysimachus and Thrace. Seleucus was reminded me of the Gladiator show Thrace, because what's that dude's name? Spartacus was from Thrace. Before they changed his name, it says Seleucus was left out of the treaty, but maintained Babylon, of which he was the satrap. That's like a governor. But let's go at this. You can read the whole article, but it's some good information, man. There's read First Maccabees 1:1. It says, and it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, or I believe that's Cyrus. I could be wrong. I'll double check it, but it says, has smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead first over Greece. All right, that was the And that's when the Edomites, all right, first got into power. The start of Edomite rulership, you know. Then you got the Romans, all right. Then you had the Esau fall, you know. All right, you had the fall of the pagan Roman Empire to the Holy Roman Empire, which our people started to rule for those, I believe it was 1,000 years or close to that. All right, hence why they call it the Dark Ages. All right. So this Daniel 7, and I can start at 5, but I get straight to the point. It says, let's see. As a matter of fact, I'll start at 5. This Daniel 7 and 5, and behold, another beast is second like unto a bear, and it raised it upon itself on one side, all right, which is the Medo-Persian Empire. And it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, all right, which represents Alexander and the Greeks, okay, because this guy also, he wore a leopard, you know, he wore a leopard like a skin, you know, over his head. It said, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it, and that's the 4 generals. To you to read, man. It says, verse 2, it's like it says, as men Darius, the king of the Persians and Medes, okay, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. All right, so they defeated the Persians and Medes because that was like a joint kingdom. All right, because they teamed together to defeat the Babylonians. Okay. Verse 2, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. So they were the dominant power at that time. Verse 3, it went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, his army, and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. His servants bare rule, every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so that their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay. So hey, that's the the result of Edomite rule. All right, evils being multiplied in the world. Okay. Verse 10, and there came out of them a wicked rule, Antiochus, saying the surname of Epiphanes. Okay. Which came out of the Seleucid line. It says, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome. He reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Okay, so that was the whole point. All right. So there's some good history going into the Diodochi Wars. All right, just to get some more understanding on it. All right, let's grab this Habakkuk 2. Then I'll close out. Habakkuk 2, and I'll start at 4. It says, behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. All right, and it's talking about Esau, Edom. All right, he was created to be the wicked. All right. Verse 5, yet also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, or enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. And that's the point I wanted to bring out, all right, because this devil is insatiable. All right, he just wants more to himself. Look at the elites now. All right. It says, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. All right. So, Lord willing, that was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Shem El Shai, Bashem Kakwadash. That honors to the apostle, elders, great millstone. Peace and blessings to all full elect. Lord willing, be a part of that number. Shalom, Kwame Sharala, Wa Baba Ball.